in my boat.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Rhino.
What a difference a couple of weeks make for the Sacramento Kings. A couple of changes. Mike Brown out, Doug Christie in. This is nuts. Y'all are a game over 500. Just 2-3 weeks ago, we were talking about Mike Brown. I remember Matt George doing the intro to his show. And I don't really watch much other Kings content, but I definitely direct you to go check out other people's content that I respect, that I think do a good job. Matt George is one of them, Locked On Kings. But his 30-second opening, and I'm sure you've seen it if you've been around Kings Twitter land, where it's the Kings fire Mike Brown, yada, yada, yada. Welcome back to basketball hell, Kings fans. It was just like, oh my gosh, he's right. It is what it is. We're back. It was perfect. It was fitting. Now you're a game over 500. You beat the world champions. By the way, does that make you the linear NBA champion? I don't know. I'll leave that up to all you. And you are on a 7-game winning streak. And now you've got a little bit of the attention of the national media. You've got it. Last week, we played the audio from Brian Windhorst and his team poking holes in the Kings winning streak, poking holes in what they were doing, giving you every reason why it was the other teams who lost the game and not the Kings grabbing the bull by the horns and winning those games. That's not so much the case anymore. And it comes with some decent attention on a guy that we all know about, but do you want the spotlight on him nationally? We'll talk about it on the other side. We've got some Ridos. We've got some Ridos today. If you're not familiar with the show, Mondays, I'll mix in what I call the Ridos. And it's something or little things that have happened that, you know, I kind of need to call people out for. It's a dope moment for them. So we'll hit that as well. And then, of course, the raging argument around this city right now. Kings with, Kings without De'Aaron Fox. If you want to get into that, we can. I continue to give it more and more thought, but I'm just riding this high for you. So the question really is, the big question of the day, do the Kings stay at or above 500 the rest of the season? What do you think? Give me a call right now, 916-822-9485. Use the QR code. You can also click on the link in the chat. We're going 90 minutes today. Grant will be here at 4 o'clock as well. Plenty of NFL news. Mike McCarthy out in Dallas. Is that a surprise to you? Maybe how it's happening is a surprise. We can hit that as well. But welcome back to the party, Kings fans. 7 in a row. Back over 500. It's the Kings Court right here on If You Don't Like That.
Grant and Ryan break it down. It's Sacktown, we're the crown.
Needs to be more aggressive on the offensive end, but this is the time to get Williams to D-Hop. Fox, goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that.
Give me a hell yes. Court is in session on a Monday. Welcome in. Ryan in Sacktown with you, taking you up till 3:30, talking Sacramento Kings basketball. Also, plenty of football to chew on if you want to get into that wild card weekend. It finishes tonight in Arizona. The Rams and the Vikings. Which way you going on that? A doink, yes, a doink sends, not the clown, a doink off the goalpost sends the Commanders into the divisional round. That's got to be the most exciting game of next weekend. The Commanders and the Lions. I'm looking forward to that one. I can't wait for that. By the way, Sean Salisbury will be here on Wednesday, not on this show, but with Grant at 3:00 talking NFL. I would love to know the answer to this because Sean is in Houston. A lot of his content revolves around the Astros, the Texans. I wonder who Sean thinks has had a better rookie season and who has the better trajectory. If you take the second year out of it and Sean only looks back at the first year, is it CJ Stroud or is it Jaden Daniels? Who is it? So I want to hear that from Sean, but all of you, hope you're having a great day. I spent the weekend down in Stockton. That was awesome. Got to go see the Stockton Kings play the South Bay Lakers on Saturday. Got me another big dose of TT, Terry Taylor. I continue, I should say, to be very impressed by the way that Terry plays the game and his shot. It's so beautiful. It is gorgeous, and it's nails most of the time. It's lights out when he lets that thing fly. Got to catch up with Gabriel Harris, the GM down in Stockton. Very, very good stuff. He still wants to come on the show. We're looking to make that happen. So I know you guys keep asking about that. Maybe during the All-Star break is what we're going to shoot for there. But again, plenty to go over with this Sacramento team. So welcome in. Let me know where you're watching the show from. Yeah, that's what I posted. Little man was in the studio again. He was in the studio. You know why? Because he's been home sick. So little man is resting up and trying to get back on his feet. Ryan, hope you're having a great day. Appreciate it. Nye high. Let's go Kings. Yes, indeed. I can get with that.
Acknowledge me.
Oscar, what's up, man? Oscar, are you Oscar that I grew up with? Just let me know. Or are you Oscar the Grouch? Oscar, are you that Oscar that I know? Curious if that's you. The Matt Man 98. This team has turned the corner. So we'll have to see a trade to improve the team even more. We will see if Monty improves this team. I think you're definitely headed down that path if you have a partner that wants to play ball with you. But remember, you're going to have to give up something to get something. And even if the starting price for the Kings is Kevin Huerter and Trey Lyles, I know Trey didn't put up a ton of points yesterday in Chicago, but he was scrappy as hell. He did all those things that didn't show up on the score sheet. I think he finished with 8 rebounds. He had a couple assists. Let's see, excited to fire the system back up. Trey finished with 8 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal. Trey only scored 6 points and he was a +9. I got on somebody on the post-game show because they're like, oh, Trey Lyles is trash. Get out of here. A terrible take.
That's terrible.
But same thing with Kevin Huerter. Defense has been better. He gives you 7 last night, but you give up 2 rotational pieces. Now, I have no problem giving up Kevin Huerter. I'm good with that. Now, I think you'll probably miss him a little bit more than you realize, but I think Devin Carter inevitably is going to start swallowing up those minutes. I think they're going to reduce. And that goes for Keon too. I think Keon is going to start biting into those Kevin minutes because Keon is slowly showing the ability to be able to guard a small forward as well as a shooting guard and a point guard. So if you throw that in, and the fact that Doug Christie doesn't mind going small at times and saying, hey, y'all adjust to us. I'm not going to adjust to you. I'm going to make your big man run his ass off. So you better adjust to us if you want to run with us. And that's something Mike Brown almost never did. I mean, it happened once in a while, but very rarely did it happen. Trey Lyles. Now that's the other piece. What are you going to get back for Trey Lyles? It's got to be something on the front line. If you give up Trey Lyles, you need another person on that front line that fits the build for this team. So we can get into trade scenarios. We've got audio from after the game yesterday. By the way, DeMar DeRozan got a really nice tribute in Chicago. He was happy about that. Isn't it funny and so cool how respected that guy is around the NBA? He is quietly one of, he's definitely in the top 100 of all time in the NBA. But the fact that you have him here in Sacramento, kind of in his, I don't want to say his twilight, not like where he's in the Vince Carter years, where he's more of a behind the scenes piece, working with the coaches, working with the young guys piece. You still have DeMar fully functional and playing pretty damn good basketball. Now the shot kind of had some problems in Boston and in Chicago with shot selection at times, but regardless, it's pretty cool that you get to have him here in Sacramento. 7-1, the Matt Man says. Let's see, no way. Yeah, these two teams, the Bucks and the Kings, as we get there, because that's going to be the last game of this trip. They play traditionally pretty close games. They get heated too. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the Kings come out. Yesterday, to me, was the game. If the Kings were going to lose on this road trip, especially after they pulled Boston off, I thought yesterday would have been the day. The letdown, the early start. At one point, when the Bulls were up 8 points, I'm like, yeah, probably not going to be that day. The Kings just can't really pull away. The three ball's not falling. And then what happens? Doug Christie goes to zone. Great move. Awesome move. Happens about the 4-minute mark of the third quarter. Now, if you look at the third quarter in totality, it doesn't look like a great defensive quarter because the Kings gave up 32 points. They did score 36. By the way, the Kings at halftime were shooting 22.2% from beyond the arc. They shot it 6 for 13 in the third quarter. Overall, in the second half, they were 9 of 21 from beyond the arc, which really spurred their comeback. But De'Aaron Fox hits that big three at the end of the third to put the Kings up 2 at 97-95. But that zone defense, that is what took the Bulls out of it. It was a change of pace. It was an adjustment. It was the X's and the O's that I talk about all the time. So good job by Coach Christie there. In fact, Keon Ellis entered the game right around that time too, which then when the Kings went back and forth between zone and man, it was showing those, I go back to different looks to Zach LaVine. And that was able to be just enough because LaVine's playing great basketball right now for the Kings to get by. So I'll take it. I know all of you will take it. Currently sitting in the 9 seed in the West, so we can hit that as well today. Here's your stats from last night. Why don't we listen to De'Aaron Fox, who returned yesterday. What did you think about De'Aaron's return? How'd you think he did overall? I know he led the Kings in scoring, 26 points. How did he look to you? How did he look with everybody else? What did you feel like? How did you come away feeling about De'Aaron Fox with this group, with the way this group is playing? Let me know in the chat, but here was Foxy after the game.
During this run under Doug?
I think just, he's bringing a type of energy that's a little bit contagious. Like I said before, like he's the same guy that he was, but like whenever you're at the front of the helm, I feel like you're probably feeling it a little more. But we got a good thing going right now, so you want to continue to play at a high level. And playing this team, obviously Zach's been doing what he's been doing, but they've been playing at a high level as well. So to be able to come in here and get a win is always good.
You guys had 33 assists and only 7 turnovers. I know you guys have talked about Doug simplifying the offense. Could you explain that a little bit more? What's a little bit more simple in terms of what you guys are doing offensively?
Obviously you just try to get high drags, point actions. Like it's stuff that everybody in the league basically runs, but you have to be able to do it with pace, and you have to be able to attack every single time that you're going down the court. So like those are just the little nuances of it. Like if you watch Memphis play, like that's pretty much all they do. Like they're not running a ton of plays. They have a bunch of guys that can shoot the ball and get downhill, and that's what they do at a high level. So that's kind of something that we're doing right now, and I think we're doing it at a high level.
My man David watching from Seattle. Shout out. What's up, David? You a 12? Or are we 12s together, buddy? Weird not to have playoff football up there. It's all right. Love Seattle. Love that city. Give me some Anthony's. Stainless steel building right on the pier, on the water. Give me Anthony's and their mussels and the grilled bread all day long. Really good. Not as good as Bennett's, though. De'Aaron Fox, again, also talking about how he was feeling.
I feel okay. I mean, my win was a little gone. Obviously, not playing for I think like 11 or 12 days, but that is what it is. I'll go out there and I try to affect the game.
So De'Aaron feeling decent. I thought he looked okay. He didn't look too gassed. I think it showed up here and there, but I definitely will talk about De'Aaron because I rewatched the game. I rewatched how this team was flowing without or with him in that offense. So it's something we will hit. Here's the Western Conference for you if you want to take a look at that as we continue going through the chat. Adam, what's up, dude? Adam Uso. By the way, Adam is a part of the Uso family. He is in the bloodline. He was ordained by Jimmy Uso, or excuse me, by Jay Uso. So this is true.
Acknowledge me.
Not made up. Trey's game has been great since DC took over. Quite frankly, Trey's game has been great since Malik Monk sideswiped him. Y'all remember Malik Monk sideswiping Trey Lyles? What's the secret behind Trey playing so well as of late, Malik? Why is it that Trey is getting up and down the court so well, Malik?
Yeah, since he's been back, he lost a lot of pounds. He was fat at the beginning of the year. Put on lost some of them LBs, and he's moving around now. So yeah, that's it. That's just
yeah, that was the problem, Malik. I'm not gonna call him fat. I'm not doing that. Trey does look good though. Not gonna lie. Souf side, Iraq Kings gonna win this one and probably lose the Rockets game. Future casting, the Rockets game is on national TV. It's your first time on TNT this year. Did that get announced? Good. I said it on the post-game show a couple of games ago after Boston. He should absolutely be the player of the week in the Western Conference. You come down with 28 rebounds against Boston. Get out of here. How about your Commanders and your Kings? Yeah, Peter. Good weekend for you. Very good weekend. Nye High hopping in the conversation. They didn't play Carter much against the Bulls. Well, you got to find minutes. Jerry Reynolds says it's not Little League. You got to find minutes for the guys you need on the floor. De'Aaron Fox re-entering this lineup changes it. Now, again, Kevin Huerter, he only played 10 minutes. So Devin Carter is eating in to some of those minutes. Devin played 11. Keon 20. And by the way, Keon had to be on the court. That was your closing five. It was Keon Ellis, Domantas Sabonis, Malik Monk, DeMar DeRozan, and De'Aaron Fox. Come on, Progressive. Are you serious, Progressive? Progressive. Come on. Progressive. De'Aaron Fox, to be the MVP of the NBA, would need to be averaging a triple-double with 30-plus points a game. For anybody on this Sacramento Kings team to be an MVP of the NBA, this team would have to win 60-plus games to even get consideration. I don't see it. I love the wishful thinking, but let's be realistic. Come on. Not going to happen. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Look, a lot of people, the national media, here's the way the national media is swinging it. And in fact, why don't we play some of that audio for you? This was The Athletic, their daily NBA pod talking about the Kings. Now, up until this point where I'm going to start playing for you, they all agreed that it was a Mike Brown thing. They have now firmly put it on Mike Brown. So here's what else they had to say.
A star in one of these games by just saying, go cook. So
I have to bring up just one guy that I think we're missing here. There's one major difference between the Kings now and what the Kings are now, and that is Keon Ellis. He is finally playing, and I think
That's a good
that is
point.
the big issue with Mike Brown is he was in the doghouse. Like, he just wasn't playing a lot under Mike Brown. Now under Doug Christie, he's playing more minutes. He's more engaged. He made winning play after winning play in their double overtime game against the Miami Heat. One of their lineups right now, they're basically their starting lineup with Keon Ellis in there, is a plus 22.2 net rating in that starting lineup. It's only played 100 minutes together, but he impacts winning. The dude just knows how to play defense. He's incredible in passing lanes. And so you guys talk about the defensive improvements. You guys talk about the connectivity that they have on the offensive end. All of that is because of this utility knife in Keon Ellis, who is finally playing. And by the way, kudos to Doug Christie for like noticing that and recognizing
and just going
that.
right away, by the way.
Yeah.
This did not take it did not take 5 games. I think he was probably in the same boat as us. Like, why isn't this guy playing? I don't know.
Well, when Doug Christie looks at Keon Ellis, you know what he sees? Sees himself. That is Keon Ellis to a T. Now, Doug was, and Jerry says this all the time, and I completely agree with him, a much better playmaker. There's no doubt about that. Keon still has room to grow. No. Mm-mm. You know who is starting to get some quiet rumbles to possibly be on the all-defensive team, especially if this team continues to be a story in the Western Conference? And let's say that they don't, let's not say that they win, I don't know, 20 games in a row. I don't think that's happening. But if the Kings end up between 4 and 6 in the Western Conference, I think Keegan Murray has a better chance at that. But I don't disagree with you, though, Progressive. I think there is an argument that Keon is starting to do some of the same things that Keegan has been doing over the past season, half a season, whatever you want to call it, being that defensive stopper. And how about Keegan starting to come around? I like it. I like it a lot. Keon, Nihai was all over it, is developing into quite an offensive and defensive player. Offensively, he still has his moments, as he will. Got to remember, second year in the league. But overall, defensively, you can't teach those instincts. Yeah, I think Keegan is probably closer to the all-defensive team, but Keon, if this stays up, I mean, look, if I'm looking at the trade deadline and I'm a GM for a different team, I'm asking for Keon. There's no question in my mind. I'm asking for Keon. And I think really that's where we need to shift our thinking, because a lot of the shows here in Sacramento, a lot of the talk around this team and possible trades, the name that usually comes up first is Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray is the one that's been thrown around. And I'm talking about the core of this team. I'm not talking about Kevin Huerter. I'm not talking about Trey Lyles, the residual. Talking about the core. Keegan's the one that everybody says, well, would the Kings part with Keegan? You've heard that teams have checked in with interest about Keegan. In fact, Sam Amick said just last week that a team checked back in with the Kings about Keegan, and the Kings said, no, we're not changing our stance on him. We want to keep him. I see why they would want to do that. I also see the need to do that because of the Sacramento front line. It's thin. That guard line, though, it ain't that thin. You don't have enough minutes for the guards that you want to get on the court if you're going to include Kevin Huerter in that conversation. So if I am a contender and I'm looking to maybe improve my team, Keon Ellis is a freaking steal. Defense translates. Keon Ellis is good enough to be on the court just because of his defense, let alone his three-point shooting, which is second on the Kings. So I think you're going to start hearing more chatter around the deadline about teams that may want him. And would the Kings be willing to part with Keon, who, by the way, has the second highest individual net rating on the Kings? That is an uncomfortable conversation. But if I'm a GM, that's where I'm looking. for so many reasons. Not only his play on the court, what about his contract? Guy makes $2 million. He's making 2.1 this year. He's making 2.2 next year. And then in 26, 27, believe it is a team. Oh, it's a team option. So you would have him for you would have him for the rest of this season and the next 2 after that. In that third season that the team will literally pick up the first day you can pick up an option for the following year, much like the Kings did with Keegan this year. They're picking that option up at $2.4 million. With this CBA, with the way that the aprons are there, that's going to be the one. Just wait for it. I'm calling my shot today on January 13th, 2025, as we sit a little less than 4 weeks out from the trade deadline, that you will start hearing that teams want Keon Ellis. There's already some stuff out there saying teams want Keon Ellis, but man, now that's a dynamic and sketchy conversation. That is, I don't know that I could part with Keon Ellis right now. In fact, I think that you could maybe make an argument that you'd rather part with Keegan Murray than Keon Ellis, depending on what you are getting back, especially if it's for somebody else on the front line. Like if it was to Utah and you were getting a John Collins back. So look, get used to getting comfortable being uncomfortable, Kings fans, because teams in the NBA these days, I've said it for the last couple of weeks, if you want to get better, you've got to take risks. You got to take risks. It's what every team towards the top of the NBA has done. And I am not suggesting that you trade Keon Ellis, but I don't see how every GM would not want a guy like Keon Ellis on their team. Dude just fits in with what you're doing. And I think there is a lot to what they were saying on the Athletic Daily. I think that there's a lot to the Kings' problems earlier this season because of the inconsistent run that Keon Ellis was getting. So very, very interesting conversation there. Let's go back to some audio from last night. DeMar DeRozan after yesterday's game.
Honestly, we just stayed with it, kept pushing. You know, we didn't get rattled. We knew they was going to hit shots, make runs. We buckled down when we needed to and got stops.
Anybody on the Bulls bench in particular catch your attention? Look back a couple times after you scored.
All of them, every single one of them. Whoever I played with last year, they all got it.
DeMar talking trash to his ex-teammates. Absolutely love it. DeMar again at the podium.
That's why that's working.
Doug just tell us go out there and just bring your game, and when we play, that's all. That's what he say. Just bring your game. I can't teach y'all how to play. Y'all know how to play, you know. And him putting that trust within us and having a selfless group like we have, just the outcome that you get.
Can you just speak to what inspired you to put together the defensive clips of Doug Christie, how you think the team responded and how it maybe translated into these past months?
Yeah, I think when you look at your leader on the sideline, you could kind of identify the toughness. You know, Doug talks a lot of crap, and to visually see why he talked crap is because that's what type of player he was. That's what gave him his long career, his defensive mindset. So when a team could see that, you know, how he was and look over to the sideline and realize, you know, our head coach did the same thing that he asking of us, you know, it makes everybody just step up and want to embody that same type of mentality that, you know, coach has. So I just thought it was a cool thing just to be able to show, you know, when he played back in the day, the things he did, because he asks a lot of us defensively, and to see him doing it was, I thought that'd be cool.
So for those unaware, DeMar DeRozan had the film team put together some cuts of Doug Christie back in his playing day and showed it to the guys. Because think about it, many of you remember Doug on the floor, but most of this team wasn't born when Doug was hooping, or at least when Doug was in his prime. So that's something to me that definitely speaks to the team. It's not a rah-rah motivational speech. That's one of those things that speaks to your basketball soul. When you see a dude giving out the way that Doug used to give out, I remember it very clearly. And Grant said it very well the other night on the post-game show against Boston, that Doug didn't always play great, but you knew exactly what you were getting when Doug Christie stepped on the court. And if the Kings can at least do that individually, if you know what you're going to get every time Trey Lyles, every time De'Aaron Fox, every time DeMar DeRozan steps on the court, then you're going to be closer to being consistent. The word that we never use here in Sacramento. We typically use that word, but it has an IN in front of it. We don't usually say consistent, but the last 7 games, it has been strong. Alex, dude, hey, brother, I'm not suggesting that you trade Keon Ellis, but don't think that there's not a single GM in the NBA that when they pick up Monty McNair's call and Monty McNair is like, yeah, we've got Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles. Yeah, well, what do you want to do around them? Well, what about Keon Ellis? You'd be an idiot not to ask that question. It's going to get asked. In fact, when Keon was barely playing, it was being asked reportedly. So, of course, it's going to come up this trade deadline. And I don't know. What do? You do have Devin Carter there. I'm not suggesting it. I wouldn't do it. But you got to look. If somebody's value is that high, and I'm not saying Keon's value is that high, but if that's the piece that could get you a damn good player in a bigger position of need, you got to think Monty's going to think about it. Monty did trade Tyrese Halliburton. If you're willing to trade Tyrese Halliburton, I don't think you're going to have any problems trading Keon Ellis. Again, I've heard nothing from the Kings that they are trading Keon Ellis. So do not, because inevitably somebody's going to hit me with a cut of this show saying, Ryan's saying trade Keon Ellis. Hell no. I think this team feeds off of Keon. I think he's a huge reason this team's won 7 in a row, but he's the perfect guy to ask for. He is the perfect guy that GMs are going to want to sweeten the pot to take on Kevin Huerter's salary. To realize that with Trey Lyles, you only get him for half of a season. I mean, look at the CBA and look at this past offseason with the trade or with the free agency period. It was, I don't know, Malik Monk didn't really even get massive offers on the open market. In fact, Malik didn't even entertain the open market. He'd already agreed with the Kings. There were a couple of guys that got paid, but overall, I mean, some of you guys saw Valanciunas' deal with Washington, and you're like, what? Why didn't the Kings go get him? Right? It's because of this CBA. The GM survey that happened late last year, the number one thing the GMs would already change about the NBA was the CBA. And this is the first year that the CBA is in effect. I've got thoughts on Fox's return into the team game yesterday. We're going to get to those in a minute. But first, Doug Christie takes the podium.
For our guys, more than anything, you know, it's not always going to be exactly how we want it or what we want, but finding a way to win 3 30-point quarters, hold them to 24 in the fourth. Super excited for DeMar coming back. You know, those are always moments that you're excited for your players to try to make sure that they represent when they've played in the city and sacrificed in the city. And I think the guys wanted to win for DeMar as well. But a lot of really good effort and just more than anything, finding a way to win. And that's how it's going to be some nights.
I don't think there's much of a market for Alex Len. And quite frankly, Doug Christie's not using Alex Len. So do you think there's another big that the Kings would want to bring in that can play fast? I'm asking you. I don't know. So let me know in the chat. Here's Doug again.
what you're simplifying and what you're asking of them in that regard?
Just allowing them to play to their strengths. I think sometimes we get into actions that aren't really actions. Like, just get to the business. Like, there's no need to do a lot of other stuff on top of the fact that we want to drive, kick, swing, and move the basketball. So it gives us more time to do that. Allowing them to just kind of use their special talents. I mean, Fox is fast. He can handle the basketball. He can get to the rack. Malik is the same way. DeMar is one of the best ISO players in the game. So you put him in position. Domas's rolling ability. Like, when you go down the list, Keegan shooting. We got some defenders on the wings. Like, all those different things, trying to just, don't make it hard. Just go get at it. And we live with the results. And let's, on the other end of the floor, let's lock arms and play really hard on that end.
Hey, you're a casual. You're not dreaming. In fact, if you think you're dreaming, let me really put you into REM. Coming into yesterday's game, the Kings had, during their 6-game winning streak, I know it's 7 right now, but during the 6 coming into yesterday, they were leading the NBA in net rating during that 6-game span. Number 1 in defensive rating, number 1 in defensive rebounding percentage at 77.7%, and also number 1 in overall rebounding percentage. Coming into yesterday's game, during those 6 wins, those were the numbers. And they were 7th in offensive rating. So yes, it has been clicking as of late.
Win more than anything. Trying to find a way. Like I said, Zach is an incredible player, so like, you're not going to stop him, but trying to find a way to slow him down, trying to keep the guys positive about, get back at it. I'm not going to call a timeout every time I think that there's a flow. If it's big enough, call a timeout. Otherwise, I trust you guys, and you guys got to learn how to trust yourself in those moments where it gets hard, it gets tough, but we need to not micromanage the situation. You guys got to solve the riddle and the problem. And they continue to do that by striking back, hitting some big shots, fighting on the glass. Like, those are things that there's nothing that I'm necessarily doing but trusting them to be the greatest versions of themselves.
I know you mentioned.
Interesting thought there. Doug, one more time.
Fourth quarter, those moments.
I don't think anything more than wanting to win. There's nothing negative or personal like that. No, not at all. He's a Class A guy. Like, that's not the vibe. The vibe is like, I was here and we're coming back, and let's handle the business and make sure that we walk out of here with the check in the left column and not the right.
He's talking about DeMar DeRozan there. And the nice video that Chicago put up for him, and DeMar talking a little bit of junk to his ex-teammates, which is all in good spirit. If you know DeMar DeRozan, you have half of a mind while you watch basketball. That guy doesn't have a mean bone in his body, or at least does not mean ill will legitimately. No, Jim, you are not nuts, my man. Actually, you and I are on the same page. That has been my take since this last summer. I think that this team, and I think this is the part that people forget when we get into this conversation, that when I say I think this team could be better without De'Aaron Fox, that is including whatever compensation you get for De'Aaron Fox. It's not just taking Fox away and running with everybody you have now. But no, Jim, I'm with you. I think if this Doug Christie system is going to be a thing, and what's interesting about the Christie system is it's really not a system. De'Aaron Fox talked about it, said it's much like Memphis. They're not really running many plays. They're just out there playing basketball. I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, guys and gals, that when I talked to somebody near the team, they told me directly, quote, the guys are thinking less and playing more, which is great. And you're seeing the results of that. 7 wins in a row. They're not looking over their shoulder. They're not thinking about getting to spots and getting pulled out if they don't get to the spot, et cetera, with Mike Brown. And I'm not saying Mike Brown was the entire reason for all this, but I do think that at some point it came to a head and there was a stalemate with the communication and the direction of the team. I don't think everybody was on board. They didn't feel like they were being used properly. In fact, I don't even think some of these guys knew how they were going to be used at times coming into games. Hell, maybe Mike Brown didn't know. How many times did he take the podium before games or after a game and say, I'm still getting comfortable with my rotation. I'm just not sure. But getting back to the quote unquote Christie system, if it's going to be a thing, and because there's so much freelancing out there and it's playing off of each other and it's hard cuts and it's motion, that's kind of a hard thing to scout. Because what are you going to do other than play a zone defense from time to time, which you're going to see a healthy dose of. And I don't think the Kings have handled well during this 7-game winning streak when they do see a zone. But other than throwing a zone defense at the Kings, it's not like you're going to be putting in defensive schemes for certain plays that they run, because quite honestly, there's not a ton of plays that they're running. Now, you could scheme for the pick and roll. You can scheme really the pick and roll, maybe the horns action. The DHO the Kings have gone away from it, which they should have. Been saying that since the beginning of the season. They needed to go more towards the pick and roll. That started with Malik Monk. Once he entered the starting lineup, Mike Brown played towards his strengths, and that's what Doug Christie is telling the guys to do. Play towards your strengths. Now, back to the De'Aaron Fox thing. If this is going to be the style of basketball, and this is going to be the Christie system, I don't think you can have a guard like De'Aaron and also run that system and get the most out of everybody else. I just don't. And I know it's controversial to say. I know a lot of you don't agree with me. But even watching yesterday's game, and I'm going to give De'Aaron a pass because it's his first game back. He's still feeling a little bit from that hip, as he will. That was a terrible fall. I was surprised he even played yesterday. I thought it would be at least Houston until he came back. So credit to him for toughing it out. But looking yesterday, there were a couple of things that stuck out to me. One was I've talked about how the Kings have been playing denial defense on the wings. That was not happening with De'Aaron on the wings. He was not denying his guy. Now, maybe that was part of the game plan. Maybe it wasn't. One of the other reasons the Kings have been so effective, or Keon Ellis, Keegan Murray, whoever it is, Devin Carter, has been effective on the other team's best players, whether it was Steph Curry, whether it's Desmond Bane, was not only were those guys face guarding, but whoever was guarding the ball. So if Bane, Curry, whoever it was, Levine, were away from the ball, whoever was guarding the ball was up in that person's business. They were guarding the ball. They were making the entry pass hard to Levine, Curry, the star, whoever you want to call. Yesterday, there was no pressure on the entry passes in the first half. Hardly any pressure. Now, that's not just on De'Aaron Fox, but De'Aaron is not one of the. De'Aaron doesn't guard like a Keon Ellis. He doesn't guard like a Kevin or like a Devin Carter. And there's nothing wrong with that. He is more of a guy that thrives in that help role. He's that sneaky guy that likes to gamble, that likes to shoot the gap and use his speed and get a steal where you think you can sneak that pass over. Well, no, De'Aaron's just too quick for that. And the way that works is when you have guys guarding the way that Keon guards, guys guarding the way that Devin guard, guys like guarding like Davion used to guard. So I was a little, I thought that was a big thing yesterday. I thought that was a big reason Levine got going. Now, Levine's been playing a hell of a couple of weeks. in the NBA. He's got 6 games over 30 points. He's been healthy. Katie said that yesterday, and he looks good. Could he be a guy that now his contract doesn't look as bad? We'll see. It's going to be up to another team to decide that. But defensively, I think it changed the formula a little bit, having Fox back, because you're not always playing towards his strengths defensively. But when you do play towards his strengths, you see plays like you did with Valanciunas, where Fox shot the gap and Valanciunas didn't see him coming from, Nurkic. And he didn't see him coming from behind. He knocks it away and the ball goes off his leg. And now you're back the other way, breaking with the Kings. Now, offensively yesterday, Fox was standing around a lot, not a lot of cutting. And the offense was a little stagnant. And that wasn't just a Fox thing. I thought Malik Monk was stagnant as well. So I'm not putting this entire thing on Fox. But what I am saying is there is a responsibility to get guys like him and DeRozan involved in the game. You've got to get them involved. And because of that, it takes away from the ball movement. So I would say the same things. I love De'Aaron. I think he's an amazing kid. I think that he has been amazing for Sacramento. I love that he's a family man. I think he has been a class freaking act for the most part, outside of the little episodes here and there of not talking to the media and then the podcast and the bad response after the Detroit game. But you know what? I'm cool with it. I get it. It's a game where emotions run high. I would rather have a guy that cares and gets pissed off and loses it sometimes than a guy that doesn't care. So I can give you a little bit of a pass there. But I think the question becomes with Fox, how do I phrase this correctly? I've been thinking about it over the last 24 hours. I think with Fox, you trade consistency for clutch play. He's very inconsistent. He's either on or he's off, and there's nothing in between. But with that comes a lot of clutch play at times down the stretch. So can this team be at its best with the ball movement, the constant movement, knowing that that's a lot of the game that you're going to get from him, and knowing that on the back end, more times than not, he comes through in the clutch. He hits that big 3 at the end of the third quarter that puts the Kings up 2. He was the inaugural clutch player of the year 2 years ago. It's a trade-off. And I think that's the crossroads that the Kings are going to have to decide. And that is just assuming, too, that De'Aaron Fox is going to want to stay in Sacramento. This would be the conversation if De'Aaron was under contract for another 4 years. The conversation is much different because De'Aaron's contract is up at the end of next season. So that's why Monty McNair, that's why this front office, they're really on a tightrope, because you could go and make a lot of dramatic changes to the core of this team to appease De'Aaron Fox, because De'Aaron wants to win. He wants to stay and be in some place where he can win a championship. And what happens if you make those moves, it doesn't work, or it stays about the same, and then De'Aaron says, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to resign here. Trade me. Then where are you at if you've traded away Keon Ellis, Devin Carter, Keegan Murray? And so that's why the Kings, and I said it yesterday, they've got to have an incredible beat and not a lockstep, because you're not going to work in lockstep with Fox's agent. Fox's agent, Rich Paul, is going to look out for Fox, as he should. It's his job, but you better have your ear to the ground and in tune. You better hire a damn private investigator to figure out where those two are at in terms of their decision-making and what they really want. Because if you as much get a sniff that this is not going to be his choice long-term, you can't keep trying to make these big moves to make things better around him, because that's how you're going to end up in a full rebuild like Portland. So no, you are not nuts. And the numbers bear it out too. Again, a very controversial conversation, But I truly believe you would have a better basketball team at the end of the day. Let's say you traded De'Aaron Fox for, and this is completely a hypothetical. Say you trade him to Utah. You get a first-round pick, John Collins, and Colin Sexton back. I think even in that scenario, there's an argument that you could have a better team. Notice how I'm saying team, playing together, because a team is not about the 10 best players, the 12, 15 best players that you can put together. A team is about the pieces that you need. And it's really funny to look at the Kings because you're starting to see some of these pieces emerge. If you want to pull a comparison to the 2001, 2002 Kings, you could start to kind of do it here and go with me, right? Go with me here for a second. You got Malik Monk, kind of like a Bibby to a degree, a way more athletic Mike Bibby, way more athletic. Bibby shot the ball a little bit better. Okay? Keon Ellis, that's your stopper. Keon is your freaking stopper. And you've got Devin Carter there too. What about Keegan Murray? You've got another stopper there, a guy that can shoot the ball. Sabonis, beast, right? He's kind of your Vlade. You see how you could keep going down the line? Those guys individually were not the best 1 through 15 players in the world, but the pieces fit perfectly right. And if you listen to Doug Christie, that's the style of basketball he wants to play. When he first got hired, by the way, he talked about that 2000 team, that 2002 team, how they kind of changed basketball. He thinks that they changed basketball, and I don't disagree with him. I think Steph Curry changed it more, but it's not a stretch to say that Doug might be looking to recreate that to a degree. MR, can you please clarify consistency statement with Fox? Statistically, he's having one of his best years, most points, best free throw percentage of his career, and overall percentage, percentage is a -49, which is very good. Okay, so let's talk about it really quick. Let's go to your players. We're going to go to our stat share really quick. Let me get to the Kings players right here. Regular season, we need players. There we go. All right, so let's get to this, and let me go to my stat share. Here we go. So here are the Kings' individual stats this year. This is for the entire season, right? So if I go right over here to this plus minus button, that is net rating. That's net rating. That tells you if you are a benefit or more of a liability for your team. So we're going to sort that by net rating. Now, a couple of these you have to absolutely filter out. The first that you have to filter out is Doug McDermott. You also need to filter out Devin Carter and Trey Lyles. Trey is probably the closest to there because all those guys have not played a ton of minutes this year. So you have to take into account the minutes when you look at net rating because it can be deceptive in that way. But look who sits atop the net rating list. Right there, Domantas Sabonis. He's got an individual net rating of 4. Who's second? Keon Ellis. Keon's not averaging all those points that De'Aaron's averaging, but he's doing all the little things, the screen assists, the things that don't show up on the stat sheet. In fact, Keon's not even averaging double-digit points for the season. He's at a 3.6. Malik Monk, a 3.4. Devin Carter already at a 2.8. DeMar DeRozan, a 2.7. Keegan, a 2.2. Trey Lyles, a 2.0. You got to go all the way down there to find De'Aaron Fox at a 0.9. What I'm trying to clarify for you is yes, all those numbers look good. You know how he was the leading scorer for the Kings against the Lakers in Doug Christie's first game? Half those points came in garbage time. He had 14 points going into the fourth quarter. Most of his stats came in garbage time. Now, that's not the case every single night. But what I'm saying is if you were to give Fox a grade for consistency, I think if you're talking about numbers, it's a different conversation. But if you were talking about consistent play throughout a game, consistent play, playing pretty much the same way throughout an entire game without lulls and highs, De'Aaron's a what, C+, maybe B-. It all comes in spurts, is what I'm saying. That's why it's the Fox quarter, the fourth quarter. That's why he won the clutch player of the year inaugurally. And it's not a bad thing. Again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. He is having a good year. But if you look at the assist numbers over the last game, his assists, he only had 3 assists against Chicago. Shot the ball well, 9 of 16. In an offense where this ball is supposed to be moving, he should be having way more than 3 assists. And he had 2 turnovers, by the way. Malik Monk had 9 assists and 2 turnovers. So what I'm saying is it's his style of play and how he gets it. I don't think you can maximize everybody else and have a guard like De'Aaron mixed in with it. And that would go the same with a James Harden, a Russell Westbrook, etc. So that's the point that I am trying to make there. And if you also look, by the way, yeah, I'm not going to get on him. Jesus Christ, my King. I'm not going to get on him for that. I get it. I look at the numbers too, 100%. But if it's the eye test, again, if I say De'Aaron Fox, it is less consistency and more clutch. He leans way more towards the clutch where it comes in spurts rather than consistency like an SGA where it's first quarter to fourth quarter. You're getting the same thing on both sides of the ball. So, MR, fair enough. Appreciate the explanation. Keep up the great work. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, we're having fun. Look, it's a good problem to have if you're the Sacramento Kings. I just, you look at also the net ratings, and I talked about this. In fact, I can pull them up for you really quick if you would like. Let's go to the players. We're going to go to, this is fun to do. If there's any questions that you have right now about this situation and what I mean, let me know. So here, let's go to this. As I go to the 2-man combinations, we'll go back to the screen share really quick. Here's your 2-man combinations for the Kings. One of the big questions that I've asked around, exactly. Bingo, Jesus Christ, my King. Flow of the game, ball movement, getting each other, teammates involved, etc. And that's what, for your guys like a Keegan Murray, for your guys like a Trey Lyles, and even a Devin Carter to a degree offensively, that is king to get the most out of those guys, to get them to shoot the ball well. They've got to be involved. And it doesn't mean involved scoring every point. It means touching the ball, cutting, running, moving around. You're part of something. You're much more into the game. So let's look at these really quick. Your two-man combinations for the year. I've asked for the last 3 years to people around this team, people who cover the team. I have not asked it to anybody on the team. Want to be clear about that. But do De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis make each other better? Because those two are what this team is built around. It's the two of them. Because when you have 2 stars, that's exactly what they should do, right? Make each other better. Complement each other. Their games should mesh very, very well. In this case, their games, to me, do not mesh well at all. And that's something that Monty McNair would have no way of knowing. And yes, it got you to 48 wins in the 3 seed. But what I'm saying is those 48 wins probably could have been 54 if you had a different composition on this roster. Look at the two-mans. So right here for you, you've got Sabonis and Monk. Look at their net rating together. Two-man combination. It's a 3.6. Sabonis and Fox. What's theirs? A 1.6. Look at the numbers across the board. Those two get the best out of each other. So when I make an argument that if you were to bring in another point guard that plays a closer style to Malik Monk rather than Foxy, what would that do not only for everybody else, but also Domantas Sabonis on top of whatever you would get from that trade? Because the numbers do bear it out. Not saying you can't win with De'Aaron Fox. You can win with De'Aaron Fox. I just don't think you are maximizing this team's ability. Progressive, these stats are so misleading. If you ask Sabonis and Fox, I guarantee you they'd say, yes, we make each other better. Progressive, how can you make that argument when you see Sabonis play with a guy like Malik Monk that's excellent at the pick and roll? What would Karl Malone be without John Stockton, Progressive? Karl Malone would have been really good, but he wouldn't be Karl Malone like he is now. And that's because those two made each other better. Do you see what I'm saying? Fox and Sabonis rarely cross paths. How many direct assists do they have to each other on the season? Probably not that many. I don't think you can quantify that unless you go through game logs, and I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is Sabonis needs guards that are excellent at the pick and roll because that's where this team thrives. This team is not a bunch of creators. This team is a bunch of finishers. You only have a few creators on this team. DeMar DeRozan can create, Domas can create, Foxy can create, and Monk can create. So when you have an offense that's predicated off of cutting, you are giving those creators more options. When you have an offense that is predicated off of the pick and roll, like this has been to a degree, you are creating more opportunities. You are creating more opportunities for everybody else to get the basketball in a spot where they can finish, because everybody else on this team is a finisher. Fox either shoots 4 of 8 or 1 of 8 from 3-point and plays defense whenever he wants. Rhino Mite. What? Rhino Mite? Holy crap. I've never seen a Rhino Mite in here. All right.
Acknowledge me.
Appreciate that. Winning.
Shut up.
Yeah, shut up, Rhino. Let's see. Getting back to Jim Ryan. They keep Fox. He might play 31, 32 minutes instead of 38, 40 minutes, and Keon and Carter get the other minutes. I doubt it. If you have De'Aaron Fox on the floor, he's going to be playing major minutes. He's going to be playing major minutes with you. We have to be very careful blowing up this team via trades and then Fox bolts. That would be awful. That is definitely worst case scenario. Good God, man. The greatest center of all time, Kareem, used to get bagged on for coasting during regular season and then turn it on in the playoffs. Jordan was the only player who didn't. We disagree with that. Big Knicks fan. Hey, what's up, Rhino? I'm on my way to work. So if you trade Fox, trade Deer Fox? Does he make Malik Monk? Does that make Malik Monk your starting guard? I don't watch the Kings basketball, but I do follow and love the show. Yeah, I think your starting backcourt would, depending on what you get back for a trade, your starting backcourt is probably Keon Ellis and Malik Monk. Flow the game, ball movement, we hit that. Let's see. Fair enough. Okay, good. We are caught up on the comments. So anyways, Fox is the heart of the team. I just don't think getting rid of him would be beneficiary unless you get an amazing trade package, which isn't likely and could disrupt chemistry. Very well could. Very well could. I think, though, out of everybody on this roster, Fox is definitely the most coveted league-wide. I feel very confident saying that. And the other things that you got to look at with that, too, is there's only, like with Malik Monk, let's break it down to this level. With Malik Monk, and we were doing the math at the end of last season, knowing his contract was coming up, we're thinking, well, who could even get Malik Monk? What situations work for Malik Monk and between the money and the style of play? And what were we able to do? We were able to kind of filter it down to about 5 or 6 teams that could possibly be in the running for Malik. And it ended up being the Kings, but a lot of those teams we filtered it down to, they were the teams that you heard about. Orlando was courting him to a degree. Detroit was courting him to a degree, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the same goes for De'Aaron Fox. You don't just trade De'Aaron Fox to trade De'Aaron Fox. You need to get what you need also in return. This is not a get rid of Fox. This team will be better without him. It's you could, depending on the return and who you're trading with, it could be a mutually beneficial trade, just like the Halliburton and Sabonis trade was. But you also have to do the same thing. You have to say, who would be a suitor for De'Aaron Fox? I've already kind of thought about it, looked at it. It's a handful of teams. Some of them you would not like, right? Progressive. I love these conversations. Progressive, coming at me. Rhino, you use Malone and Stockton as your example. How about Shaq and Kobe? If you run the analytics, they probably say they're terrible players with each other, but they're the greatest duo of the 2000s. Progressive. De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis aren't top 20 players in the NBA of all time. They're not top 20 players of all time. And I know I use Stockton and Malone. That's a little bit broader. That's probably top 100 players of all time. You were talking about 2 different people that arguably were the best to ever do it at their positions. Certainly the best of their generations at their positions. And do you remember, Progressive? How old are you? How old are you? Are you old enough to remember that team? Do you remember the turmoil that those two went through? You know, it's all good. Hey, that's the thing. And that's what I love about Sac fans too, is it's you guys are usually the best and most knowledgeable fans in the NBA. Now, there's a small handful of you, just a little sprinkling, like last night or yesterday afternoon, where it's like Trey Lyles is trash, that jump to extremes. But people believe what they believe because they know basketball. They think they know what's right for the team. And I respect your opinions for the most part. Now, I'll call you out on your opinion if I think it's bullshit. 100% do that. Just like I did with the Lyles thing yesterday. But look, I said this before, there's no right answer to this. What we're talking about here, I keep using this analogy. We are not talking about the difference between a steak from Denny's and a steak from Bennett's. Okay? We're not saying that if you make this trade, you are going to be a steak from Bennett's instead of a steak from Denny's. It's not what we're saying. We are talking about the difference between a ribeye, a perfectly marbled, bone-in tomahawk ribeye, and a supremely cut, lean 16-ounce filet mignon. Both are really damn good. Really, really damn good. But it's preference. That's what it is. It's preference. And what I'm saying is, I think you could be probably the better of the two, whichever side you come out on. Where's the whiner Napier? You're funny. Nape's going to be here at 4 o'clock. You get your Grant time at 4 with Open Forum Monday. Make sure you show up for him. Show him some love. He'll be talking the NFL weekend. You'll get to hear from him about yesterday's game with the Kings winning their 7th in a row and being a game over 500. Can you believe it? Absolutely love it. It's so fun, but can we take a step back too for a minute and just acknowledge that less than a month ago, these were just terrible conversations. We're talking about grim stuff, blowing it up, season's over. The fact that we're at game over 500 and the fact that this team has options and the fact that this team is starting to hit a stride. And that's why I asked the question. I don't think anybody's answered it yet. Do you think this team will stay at or over 500 the rest of the season? Let me know in the chat. But the fact that we're getting to have these conversations, what I call meaningful conversations about basketball this season, pretty damn cool. Pretty damn awesome. So love it. Come back for Grant, 4 p.m. Open Forum. He will be here. Sorry about the issue last time. I promise you, Mr. Napier will be here to take your calls and take your questions. Speaking of great steaks, whether it's a ribeye, whether it's a filet, whether it's a New York prime, Bennett's is the place for you. 3 locations in the greater Sacramento area. Go check them out. Bennett'sRestaurants.com. The West Side Grill, the newest of the 3 located in Rockland in the Blue Oaks Town Center. Hope you were able to make it out for brunch this weekend. If you didn't, don't worry. They've got another great special tonight. Wine and Dine Mondays, 2 entrees, bottle of wine under $70. Also happy hour Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 p.m. They call it their Sips and Taste. Sips and Taste. I know Dennis, who's not here right now, he loves him some Bennett's happy hour. Also, if you're thinking about doing a get-together, let them do the work for you, whether it's at your place or you want to have it in one of their private dining rooms. They will set it aside for you. And my man, Brian Bennett, does not mess around. Look at what I'm talking about.
I don't know about you, but if you're thinking about having a holiday party or a party of any kind, and you don't ask us to make our house smoked salmon, to grill our prime New York steak, to grill long stem artichokes, to make ahi pokey. What are you talking about? You're going to have a party and you're not going to call Bennett's and have them take care of you? My goodness gracious. Give us a call. We can make this for Easter. We can make it for Christmas. We can make it for anybody's.
You can get those numbers at Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Give them a call. Let them know that you heard about them here on If You Don't Like That. And thank you all for supporting Bennett's the way you have. We get incredible feedback from Brian and the team and vice versa. Let us know about your experience. We'd love to hear it. We will pass it along to them as well. So go check them out. Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Prime cuts of seafood and steak. Getting hungry. Anybody doing anything for the game tonight? I know Big Al is looking forward to this one. The Rams and the Vikings from Arizona here a little bit later. Grant coming up for you before that. All right. I said that it is a Rye-Dough Monday, so we might as well mix a few of these in. I definitely have a couple of doughs. Don't. So I was in Stockton this weekend, and there was nothing dough about being in Stockton. I love being down there. If you have not been to a Stockton Kings game, you got to get to one. It's a really fun experience. If you have kids and you guys watch basketball, Kings basketball together, it is a perfect opportunity to go down there and grab a really good seat. There's not a bad seat in the arena. You can sit really close to the action for a very, very fair price. and you see some excellent basketball. In fact, it's basketball that's incredibly similar stylistically to what the Kings are doing. It's fast paced. They're running much of the same offense, doing a lot of the same things down there, and doing all the right things. Think about the player development that's going on between here in Sacramento and Stockton, in the scouting too, recognizing Keon Ellis, who was undrafted. Also, Colby Jones, he's been down there playing a lot. You'll see faces that, I promise you. Also, it's not that part of Stockton. It's a left turn off of I-5. You'll probably see some Kings personalities as well that you recognize. You can go mingle with them. It's really fun. Get down there. So anyways, I've been down for a couple games in the last week, checking things out with an eye specifically at Terry Taylor and also checking out Colby Jones. Now, Colby wasn't at the game Saturday, which Stockton ended up winning. They were blowing out South Bay Lakers. And then they started relinquishing the lead as the second half went along, but they ended up holding on at the end. But I had a few people come up and talk some hoops with me, so thank you very much for doing that. But then I had one individual come up to me, and a nice young man on the younger side, probably about 20, I would guess maybe 23, 24, 25. And anyways, you could tell he had partaked in a couple of beverages. Why not? If you have a designated driver, do it, right? It's fine. If that's your thing. You want to have an adult beverage? All for it. Just be smart about it, right? And so, anyways, I'm thinking, okay, he wants to talk some hoops, whatever. And the first question this young man asked me was, "Are you married?" And if you remember, if you've been watching this show for a while, I told you one time I had somebody come up to me and basically kind of like pop out from a bathroom stall at a local restaurant with their phone. And they're like, "Ryan in Sacktown, what's up?" And they were like recording it. And I was in the bathroom and I was washing my hands. And so I did a Rido about that, right? I'm like, happy to talk basketball. Like I if you guys watch the show and like, it's not like I get recognized much. It's not why I do this, but if you do watch the show, come up, say hi. I'd love to meet you in person. People that I know from this show that I've met all the time, you guys know this. So anyways, this young man comes up to me and that's the first question he asked me. "Are you married?" Like, homeboy, do you not see the ring? "Yes, of course I'm married." And he's like, "How do you do it, man?" And I'm like, okay, is he trolling me? He's got to be trolling me, right? And I'm like, well, I do it happily. I've been married for 10 years. And he's like, I need some advice. I don't know what to do. And he's not slurring, but you could definitely kind of smell the booze. And again, we're in this lounge area. So the media area and the premium lounge are all one room in Stockton. And he starts telling me his story. So he didn't give me the opportunity to say whether or not I wanted to give him advice, but usually I'm more than happy to give advice, or at least give you my experience if you ask for it. I'm not going to just do it unsolicited. But he just goes into his problem. And here was his problem. He's like, "Yeah, man, like we had this game planned out for tonight. And then like one of my buddies, he knocked on my window at like 6 a.m. this morning. And he's like, bro, let's go." And this is how he's talking, by the way. He's like, "Bro, let's go golfing." He's like, "Do you golf? You don't like golfing?" And I'm like, "Yes, I golf." And I'm like, where is this going? Right. And I'm thinking, okay, like this guy's on the verge of probably like getting engaged. Like this has got to be a massive deal. Right. And so he's like, "So yeah, I went golfing. And, like when you golf, you drink. Like you got to drink and golf. You can't golf without drinking." And he goes into this big thing. And so basically the nuts and bolts of what happened was he went golfing He got tipsy. His girlfriend thought he was a little too tipsy. By the time it came time to go to the Stockton Kings game, they went to the game anyways. He ended up having a couple more. You know what she did? She said, you know what, man, you're too tipsy. I'm out. Find your own way home. You can get an Uber. You can get a Lyft. And anyways, he's like, what do you, like, how do you, like, girls are so frustrating. What do you do about situations like that? And I look at him and I'm like, bro, how long have you been with your girlfriend? And he looks back at me and he goes, almost 2 months.
Don't.
If you've only been with somebody for 2 months, and he goes into another 1.5-minute explanation of why he wants to be with her and where she's gonna be going in a couple of weeks and how they're gonna be separated. If you've only been with your girlfriend for 2 months, my man, you two have just started the process of getting to know each other. That's not even, I mean, you are just planting the seeds. You are just creating boundaries. So here's my dough, dude. It's not that you went golfing and that you went drinking. It's not that she left your ass at the Stockton Kings game.
Don't.
My dough is you seeking marital advice for your relationship that's not even a year old. Come on, my man. Dude, don't waste my time with that. Don't compare your 2-month relationship to my 10-year marriage, homeboy. There is no advice that I can pass along to you other than sleep it off, my man, catch an Uber, and talk to her tomorrow. And set up some boundaries. Say you're sorry. This guy wanted to die on the golfing hill. That you can't say no to golfing. And you can't golf without drinking. And it's implied that if you go golfing, you're going to probably get tipsy. My man, dude, save it. Save it, man. I was expecting something like major. I was expecting like, you know, she cheated on me. Like, what can any married person offer to somebody that's been with their girlfriend for 2 months? Come on, dude. And y'all want to know the best part of what happened? After we finished the conversation, he goes, hey, man, do you think you could give me a ride?
That's terrible.
Real talk.
Don't.
I'm happy to give you advice. I'm happy to talk, but at least be qualified. At least be qualified for the advice, man. Come on. Then can I get a ride home? Oh my gosh, what a knucklehead. So that is one of my does. I got one more, by the way.
Don't.
I had to pick up a mobile order from Target last Rido, even though I got a third one. I'm not going to go into it. I had to pick up a mobile order from Target. Two girls, by the way, one of them asked, where would you like your order? Back seat's fine, right? And anyway, she goes, she sets the stuff on the back seat. And then there's this other one who's clearly training. And she's telling her, you know, what you do. You just set it on the back seat. And this girl throws the bag. Like she tosses the bag. And it hits my back seat. It flips over onto the bottom of my floorboard, and everything in the bag is on the ground. The little plastic cover that goes on the shaving cream can popped off and went to the other side of the car. And I look back and I'm like, we make eye contact. And I'm thinking, did you, in the spurt of the second, I'm running through my head. I'm like, did she think it was just gonna like land softly on the seat? Like, what happened here? Is it a joke? Are they messing with me? And so we make eye contact, and I'm clearly waiting for her to say, "Oh, my bad. Let me pick that up." She just looks me right in the eye and closes the damn door.
No! Don't!
So now you've put me in the position of, do I just eat it and just sit there and, well, is what it is. Maybe she socially is awkward and she made a mistake and got scared. I'm cool with it, right? But the problem was the shaving cream can, the lid did not go back on it, which means I now am going to have to tell my wife, who looks at stuff like that like a hawk, when we do mobile orders, like, oh, was that damaged? Did they give us the bad one? Yada, yada, yada. I'm either going to have to take the blame for that, or I'm going to have to tell her about the girl that threw the bag. And what do you think my wife's going to do then? Is she going to be petty and call Target and be like, hey, yo, why are you throwing bags of vinegar and shaving cream cans in cars and letting them fall over and then just leaving them there for the customer to pick up? So thank you, Target employee, for putting me in that position. Don't. Oh my gosh. So there's a couple of does for you. I had one earlier in the week too. Somebody was holding court, by the way, in the vacuum line at the car wash. You know, the coveted slots when you come out of the car wash. There's only 6 stalls that have vacuums, and there's always a line. Somebody was just sitting there, taking a phone call, hanging out, already had vacuumed their car. You got to move on. So I'm Brian Bennett, and if the Kings reach a 10-game streak, come down to Bennett's for a free steak dinner. Jesus Christ, my king. Is that really you, Brian? Brian, are you on this show right now, Brian? I'm looking to see if I have any messages from Brian Bennett. All right, we will vet that. If that is not Brian, that is well played, by the way. That is well played. Forever hate Kobe. Yes, hoping for a win for you guys tonight, too. Represent the NFC West. Great time in Stockton. Not a bad seat in the house. Agreed. Let's see. Why would a guy ask a man if you're married? You know what? Your screen name says it all. It's a trap. Why would you ask a guy if he was married? I mean, he was clearly seeking advice. He was clearly a little hammered. He clearly didn't know what he wanted to talk about. He certainly wanted to talk Kings, but we just never got to the Kings conversation.
Shut up. Stop. Move forward.
Right? Rhino's marriage counseling. Like, what can I did tell him this. I'm like, look, dude, the biggest adjustment that I had to make in my personal life, in my relationship with my wife, was she's one of those people where if something happens, like I step in it. Like, for instance, one time, and I got to get out here because I got to get going. We got a hard out at 2:35. But if I step in it, like when we had been together for 3 or 4 months and we went shoe shopping, by the way, shoe shopping is just terrible to deal with if you're a dude and you're going with your lady, but you put up with it. I, for whatever reason, said, and I was nervous. I was like, oh, you kind of have big feet for a girl. I stepped in it. I immediately could not take that back. And she really doesn't. She's tiny. I don't know why I said it, but I did. And I'm thinking, I'm never going to live this down. this is going to follow me. She's going to dump me. Right. And she was good. She let it go. She was upset about it. She let it go. But I couldn't let it go. I felt so bad about it. I couldn't let it go. So I had to adjust to the fact that she was one of those people that if it happens, deal with it, move on. It's over after that, right? And me, I'm more of the, can we smooth it? I'm sorry, are you sure you're okay? So I told him, I'm like, dude, it's been 2 months. Sleep it off. She might not care tomorrow. It might be over and done with. Just let it go. So anyways, let's see as we wrap up. Damn, she balled out. Dude should have controlled how much he drank. He was tipsy. He was definitely tipsy. No spooning in court. Great story. Thanks, Progressive. Let's see as we wrap up. Love you guys for being here. Thank you very, very much. It's petty. Yeah, I know. See, and that's why I ate it. I just told her I dropped it. LMO, man, that's messed up. You gotta apologize every day for a long time. I was nervous. What can I say? I was nervous. It happens. Hey, thank you guys very much. Whether we agree, disagree, I just appreciate that you're here for the conversation. If I make the conversation better for you, I want you to know that most of you, except for the small minority that are like, oh, this player's trash because he didn't score double digits tonight. Except for that minority, most of the time you make the conversation better for me. So thank you very much. We are back tomorrow, 1:00 here on the King's Court. Before that, don't forget, of course, my pleasure, Nihai. Don't forget. Yeah. See, I'm going to have to vet that now. If that's Brian Bennett, I'm De'Aaron Fox. Yeah, I'm going to vet that. We'll see. Look, I could see Brian doing something like that. That's why I want to make sure I vet that with Brian first. But anyways, in the meantime, we're back tomorrow, 1:00, King's Court. We've got a busy day. Kings go for 8 in a row. They go for a 3-0 road trip against the Milwaukee Bucks. We will have a full breakdown of that one. NFL football tonight. We didn't get to Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy really quick out the door. Let's hit that. Mike McCarthy reportedly no longer will be the coach of the Cowboys. Everything that Dallas is talking about is it seems like because his contract is up tomorrow, this seems like it was a Mike McCarthy decision. Here's Dallas 105.3.
You talk more in a minute because Corey needs to tell us information.
All right. One thing of housekeeping note from Ian Rappaport, clarity. Though Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy is under contract through tomorrow, a source says that he can now speak with teams immediately. So that's an interesting note because if your contract's still there, like how can that be? Well, I'm out of here. So I'm ready to move on from this. We've agreed to it. That could be that the Cowboys said see you later.
Yeah.
The other thing that makes me think that it's McCarthy is Calvin Watkins reporting that McCarthy has already reached out to his coaching staff to let them know and talk to his coaching staff. So in my opinion, I feel like if you had that and you're ready to go ahead and start talking to your coaches about it, you were already, understanding that you were on your way out there.
Can you blame the guy? Can you blame the guy? By the way, there were other teams, specifically Chicago, looking to possibly speak for Mike McCarthy or speak to him. Chicago is looking to maybe trade for a coach, which is an interesting way to go about it. No judgment there. Got to do what you got to do to get the right guy. Could Kyle Shanahan be on that list? I don't know. Would be interesting to see. But anyways, we're back tomorrow. All new King's Court. But before that, we've got Grant coming up at 4:00. Make sure you join him right here on the channel. Love y'all. Appreciate you. Enjoy this winning streak. And let's hope. I think the Kings, they're going to float right around 500. I'm not sure they give it back this year. We'll see. We'll see. I need to see more basketball. We'll see that tomorrow. I'll make my decision after tomorrow's game in Milwaukee. Coach Christie, break us down.
That's big time shit. Together on 3, y'all. 1, 2, 3. Together.
Go Kings. Light the damn beam. Stay the hell away from Levine. Court is dismissed. Be back at 4 with Grant.